Welcome to the Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up today, 3 chances to win fantabulous prizes, including our Golden Age of America giveaway, our Real Deal giveaway, and our Good News giveaway, plus the bonus today of my review of Snow White. But before we get to any of that, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
Right before we wrapped up the show on Friday, we got the breaking news that a King County Superior Court judge ruled that the natural gas initiative, which all of you worked so hard to get on the ballot, which all of you voted for to make sure that natural gas was not banned in Washington, that all of you worked so hard to make sure you wouldn't have to retrofit your house to the cost of tens of thousands of dollars, was overturned by an activist judge who's a donor to Democrats, who is being accused right now of actually letting the plaintiffs write her response, which is insane, absolutely insane. Let's go through what happened here for a minute. I-2066 came after the legislative session at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, because the Democrats love doing that in the last legislative session. Democrats snuck through a ban on natural gas. And no matter how many times you talk to them, they said, it's not a ban on natural gas. Then why are you doing it? That's exactly what it was. Why? For green energy. Now, they spent years telling us how natural gas is better. Their garbage trucks that go by literally say on them cleaner because of natural gas. And they want to upgrade everything to electric. Let's leave aside the restaurant industry for a minute, which absolutely freaked out because they use natural gas for cooking, and they're going to have to spend tens of thousands of dollars upgrading their equipment in their restaurant. Basically, what it was to make sure that you still had the option for natural gas. The Puget Sound Energy still had to provide natural gas. And now that they don't have to, they're going to charge you more on your bills to start doing infrastructure upgrades so that they don't have to provide natural gas anymore. Where's the electricity coming from? These Democrats want to tear down the Snake River dams. Well, that's kind of on pause for right now with the Trump administration, but who knows what happens after the Trump administration, because this is something Democrats have wanted for a long, long time. And if you tear down the Snake River dams, the Columbia River dams, if you do that, you lose the hydroelectric power, which is our cleanest source of energy. And if your concern is the fishies, then you know what? There are things you can do to help the fishies rather than tearing down all the dams. And the fish population is on the rebound, by the way. So there are things you can do. So they have no plan whatsoever from where all this electricity is going to be coming from, because the solar, well, we're in the Pacific Northwest. The wind, yeah, those suckers, those giant windmills kill a lot of birds, use oil, and throw blades that are ginormous the length of football fields when they go bad. Oh, and they're not that reliable. We don't get that much wind out here. And the amount of them that you need isn't going to offset anything. So what do you got left? They're not going to do nuclear. They're not going to do coal. What are the other options you have around here? They don't have any. So you're going to remove one section of our energy resources, and then you're not going to be able to power anything else. Boom. Congratulations. We are California. What bothers me more is that Democrats say all the time, you're a threat to democracy. You're trying to undermine democracy. You're trying to overthrow democracy. I had a teacher in 3rd grade in the Jewish school I went to. His name was Mar Chaviv. Mar Chaviv means Mr. Chaviv. Mr. Chaviv, Mar Chaviv, would always say, and I think it was an Israeli accent, but he would always say, when you point with one finger, 3 fingers are pointing back at you. He would always say something. My Israeli accent impression is terrible, but that's what he sounded like. He would always do that. So us being obnoxious children that we are would always throw out all 5 fingers. You did it. He did it over there. He did it. But the Democrats always accuse Republicans of what they are doing. So this judge, this King County Superior Court judge, Sandra Widlin, Let's go through her ruling. The center square, I believe it was our friend Carlene Johnson, who got a recording of this. Here's what she said when she ruled that your vote doesn't matter. When she said your vote is unconstitutional, you didn't understand what you were voting for. It's the exact same argument they used when they got rid of the $30 car tabs. It's the exact same argument, even though it was, we want $30 car tabs. Oh, sorry, these people are too stupid to understand what they're voting for. Oh, but a kid's smart enough to know he wants to cut off his junk? Yeah, square that circle for me. So here we go. You're telling me people are too stupid to understand what they're voting for? Here's what she said.
So, to summarize, Initiative 2066 violates both Article 2, Section 19 and Article 2, Section 37. Initiative 2066 violates the single subject requirement of Article 2, Section 19 of the Washington Constitution. Initiative 2066 violates the subject and title requirement of Article 2, Section 19 of the Washington Constitution. Article 2066 violates the section amended shall be set forth at full length requirement of Article 2, Section 37. For these reasons, Initiative 2066 is unconstitutional. Plaintiff's motion for summary judgment is granted. Defendants is denied.
So, essentially what that means is you were too stupid to know what you were voting for. You were too dumb. That's what she's saying. There's no legal theory behind this at all. I went and looked up everything she cited. There's no legal basis for her ruling. It's I don't like it. You know who was in the courtroom on Friday? Jay Inslee. Jay Inslee's never there without a sports analogy, and he was there to make sure he could protect his climate agenda. Here's what he said to the center square. My view is the initiative threw a curveball to voters because it included so many things that were extraneous to the original proposal. So it's not fair to voters. That's why we have these rules, so the initiative process has integrity. Really? Wasn't it Bob Ferguson who made the other initiatives so confusing, the ones that actually made it to the ballots, that nobody understood them? And I don't see anybody challenging that. Yeah, in that case, I had people who are very smart people asking me, wait a minute, I thought we're trying to make sure that we can do this, and this is saying we can't do this? This is confusing. What is it Jay Inslee doing? Accusing us of the very same thing he and Bob Ferguson did. And all the Democrats did. They made those initiatives so confusing, nobody had any idea what they actually said. This judge is a donor to the Democrat Party. How do we know? Because the volunteers at Doge Washington, follow the Twitter account Wake Up Wah, check them out, has a whole list of who they've donated to. Tell me if any of these names sound familiar. Democrat M. Lorena Gonzalez, who ran for Seattle mayor. Jenny Durkin, who was Seattle mayor. M. Lorena Gonzalez to run for Seattle City Council. Jay Inslee. Pramila Jayapal. Dow Constantine. Robert W. Ferguson. And the list goes on. Oh, Monka Dingra. The 43rd District Democratic Party. Yeah, how can you not? Why didn't you recuse yourself? Oh, right, because that's why you're there. That's why you're there. In fact, this isn't just a local problem. This is a national problem. Chuck Schumer admits this is exactly why they put these activist judges in. He was on MSNBC over the weekend.
There are those who believe that we are, in real time, living through an assault on the constitutional order. Do you believe that we are in a constitutional crisis right now?
Yes, our democracy is at risk because Donald Trump shows that he wishes to violate the laws in many, many different ways. The good news here is we did put 235 judges, progressive judges, judges not under the control of Trump last year on the bench, and they are ruling against Trump time after time after time. And we hope that the appellate courts, when it gets up there in the Supreme Court, will uphold those rulings. They restored the money to NIH. They required that 8,000 federal employees have to come back. We're in over 100 lawsuits against them, and we are having a good deal of success. It's only at the lower court level right now.
Who are these judges they're talking about? Well, Doge Washington, _up Washington, _up Washington. Follow them on Twitter. Has this one right here. It has biased federal judge and Biden appointee Lauren King blocked President Trump's plan to pull federal funding from institutions that provide sex change procedures for kids. Let's look at her donation list, shall we? Jay Inslee, Deborah Juarez, Seattle City Council, Bruce Harrell, Seattle Mayor, Kshama Sawant, the Marxist, the communist, the socialist alternative, because the socialists weren't warm and fuzzy enough for her. She had to go make something more communist, don't you know? This is what they are doing. This is by design. This is intentional. These judges are biased, and everybody knows it. Want another example? Biden-appointed federal judge Jamal Washington has blocked President Trump from suspending the nation's refugee admission system. This partisan judge should have recused himself, as he has donated thousands of dollars to the Democratic Party and their candidates. All over his website, his donation list. People for Patty Murray. People for Patty Murray. Washington State Democratic Central Committee. Act Blue. That's their fundraising arm. Act Blue. Where do you think all the money's going? Why do you think he has the judgeship? Oh, gee, can't imagine why. M. Lorena Gonzalez, all over this one as well. 34th District Democrats. Yes, the fix was in for all these rulings beforehand. This is what they are doing. Now, what's fascinating is when you read the liberal media celebrating this ruling by this activist judge, usually you quote what they write in the court documents. But they can't do that, because if you quote what her ruling is, you say any person with half a legal mind is going to say there's no basis to this whatsoever. This makes no sense. So instead, they spend the whole time bashing Brian Haywood. Now, this thing ain't done. It's going to go to the Washington State Supreme Court. But I'm telling you, once it gets there, they're going to do the exact same thing they did to the car tabs, the $30 car tabs. They're going to reject the thing and say, no, you voters, you were too stupid to understand what you were voting for. This is the Democrat way. Not only is this going to make your life more expensive, but you know the saddest thing to me is how many Washingtonians have no idea any of this is going on. Look, I love my audience. We grow our audience. We do a good job growing our audience. I wish every single person in Washington was listening to the show, but they're not. You remember the long-term care tax? You know how many people after it went into law said, Ari, why is this money coming out of my account? What's this tax for? And I said, well, you had the opportunity to opt out of it, and you had the opportunity to fight against it. You had the opportunity to vote it down. I did? What? What was mind-boggling to me were the people who said, where's this money coming out of my account? I said, well, you didn't opt out, but, there's going to be an initiative. You have to vote against the thing. Oh, okay. Wait, you mean I could have voted against the thing? People do not know. And they are counting on the average voter not knowing. They're counting on that. They're counting on one day, all of a sudden, they go, wait, hang on. I have to upgrade my entire house over to electric from natural gas. I don't have that money. At minimum, my estimate is any normal house is going to spend about $40,000 making that switch. Likely closer to $70,000. Do you have $40,000? Do you have $70,000? Let's not forget, all these people who work for government, they were still getting paid during the shutdowns. They still had jobs during the shutdowns. They could do their jobs remotely. And a lot of you couldn't out there. Democrats are literally circumventing democracy. What did they do? They said, you're too stupid to understand what you voted for, so they're going to tell you what they want instead. The fix was in. So my question for you is, do you have any faith whatsoever in the democracy of Washington? Because I'm going to tell you, this is one of their other side bonuses. For them, they know this is going to disenfranchise people. They know a ton of people on social media are going to be yelling and screaming about how your vote doesn't matter, you shouldn't even bother voting, and that helped deliver a lot of these ballot initiatives rejections. This helped deliver Bob Ferguson the governor's mansion because a lot of people said, why even bother voting? I shouldn't even show up. You know how Scott Pressler won? You know how Charlie Kirk won? You know how Donald Trump won? By saying we're going to make it too big to rig. Too big to rig. And those of you who are saying, when I interviewed Brandy Cruz on Friday, and the two of us said we have to get over 1 million signatures for the Parental Rights Act. Those of you who said, why bother? Why bother? Why bother? It's part of the problem. But I want to know if you guys have faith in your electoral process in Washington anymore. Give us a call, 206-421-5757, or give us a text, 206-421-5757. Because it is clear that the Democrats do not value your vote at all. It is very, very clear from all of this. This judge had no legal basis to do what they did, but they went ahead and did it anyway. Why? Because they're a Democrat, and they do what the Democrats want. You want to weigh in, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from our friend Transit Joe. Transit Joe, what's up, man?
Turn on the breaking news, please, because I have breaking news.
You have breaking news? Okay, well, if Joe tells me we have breaking news, hang on. We're going to do this right now the right way. Here we go, Joe.
Talk Radio 570 KVI. Breaking news on the Ari Hoffman Show.
What do you got for us, Joe?
Sound Transit has issued a statement on the nomination of Sound Transit CEO. The preferred candidate is Sir Dal Constantine.
You're kidding me. Oh, I didn't see that one coming. So they've officially issued the statement saying that it's going to be Dal Constantine?
I'm looking at it right now.
Do me a favor, forward that over to me, ari@kvi.com. That's ari@kvi.com. We knew this was coming, Joe, and this is bad news for everybody. Once again, the fix was in. I know you disagree, Joe, but I'm going to tell you why I'm right and you're not. Number one, Sound Transit has never run on time, on schedule, or on budget. Dal Constantine was part of the people that caused that. In addition to that, Dal Constantine picks his own people for that board to put on that board. That is not an honest process where then he goes to them and he says, I need a retirement package. I want you to hire me. He has been a disaster for that agency. And just because you didn't know who the other people were who were running, Joe, doesn't mean he's the best candidate for it. This is a guy who literally bought a hotel in the path of the light rail for triple its price to house the homeless that was infected with meth. And he bought that at triple the price, knowing it had to be torn down anyway. How can you say this guy would be good for Sound Transit?
Well, it was just one error, and I
just listed 10 errors. That's not one error. That's 10 errors, Joe.
One, not 10.
Okay, behind schedule, behind budget, and the hotel.
Yes.
That's 3 at minimum.
Okay. I'll spot you free, but I still have playing
Okay,
with
what was his greatest accomplishment as the executive for King County?
Getting Sound Transit free passed.
You mean the thing that's running behind schedule and behind budget that's going to tear down the hotel?
Yeah, but I think
okay, Joe, you can't give me that one, man. That doesn't work. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. Thanks for the breaking news, my friend. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from Mike in Seattle. Mike, what's going on?
Hey, how you doing, sir?
Good. What's up, man?
Well, I just got out of the car from the long commute home, was listening to you. And it's just frustrating and outrageous how the community has overturned the natural gas issue. Same thing. My house runs my heat and my water heater, along with my gas grill, all run off of gas. And it's pretty infuriating that the judge infers that I'm too ignorant to understand what I'm voting on. And you know, I can't say who I work for, but I see a lot of airplanes in my industry. I'll just phrase it that way. I make a respectable 6-figure job, and I'm being forced out.
Yeah,
because of the cost of living in this state.
Aren't we all?
So I'm going to take my salary and go somewhere else.
Yeah,
unfortunately, between that and the Second Amendment issues that always seem to be under fire in this state.
It's absolutely insane how many people are going to be forced out of their homes and how many elderly are going to be forced out of their homes and how many poor people are going to be forced out of their homes because of this nonsense. Mike, I don't blame you at all, man. I really don't, because I don't know a single family that hasn't had these conversations. In fact, I think there was a survey done recently where 75% of people in Seattle were saying the exact same thing as you. Where does it end? And at 4 o'clock today, we're going to be discussing the massive tax increases that are coming your way. Mike, remember, if you do end up moving, you subscribe to us at whatever your preferred podcast platform is, and you download the KVI app for the same reason I have the New York traffic stations in my car, so I can cruise along with no traffic and think to myself, isn't this wonderful? I don't live in New York, and you can do the same thing.
Well, the thing is, Ari, to be honest, this is a gorgeous state. The view and the outdoors is amazing here. But the voting and the Democrats, I hate to generalize, but most Democrats don't, or most people in general, let me back that up. Most people in general don't even look at what they're voting on, and it's infuriating. People stick a fancy name on it, and it's usually misleading.
Yeah. It's absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. But, you know, we're the dumb ones, right? Right, Mike? That's what they do. They do this to screw with us and to take our money and to say they know how to spend it better than we do. And what's better here? Not the roads, not the bridges, not the ferry system, not the cost of living, not the homeless problem, not crime. I can't name one thing they've made better with all this insanity. Mike, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, so much more to discuss as the show continues, including how all of a sudden, the Seattle Times is running cover for activists who are encouraging people to light Teslas on fire. We'll give you the details on that, plus so much more. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Speaking of the fix being in, is anybody surprised by this latest news that Dow Constantine is now going to be in charge of Sound Transit? This is absolutely insane. So he appoints his friends like Claudia Balducci, Angela Burney, Bruce Harrell, Dan He gets all his buddies on the board so they can give him over $600,000 a year for the rest of his life as a reward for screwing up King County over the last 16 years. As I was just saying to our friend Transit Joe, is anything in King County better than it was when he took office? And now they're going to put him in charge of Sound Transit? Yeah, because Sound Transit does such a bang-up job. Tell you what, when their escalators work on a regular basis, then you can tell me what a good job they do. When a single one of their projects comes in on time and on budget, then I'll be impressed. Just one part of the project. They can't even do that. And yet they put Dow Constantine in charge of all this? Are they insane? Yeah, the answer is yes. You know that. I know that. The fix was in. Oh, and by the way, the left is going to go bonkers crazy over this too. They don't like Dow Constantine either. So the left doesn't like him. The right doesn't like him. And I wonder how many of these people are going to realize they're putting their own political careers at risk. They're not worried about a threat from the right. They're going to get threats from the left because they're going to, let's take Angela Burney, the mayor of Redmond, for a minute, if she votes for Dow Constantine. So let's see. The right hates her because her daughter was caught tearing down posters of hostages, and she didn't have anything to say about it, and she just kind of tried to sweep it under the rug. And on the left, they're not going to like her because of the Dow Constantine thing. So she's going to get a lefty challenger, and that's who's going to get elected. Bruce Harrell already has a lefty challenger. And you know what? I put 50-50 on that person getting elected at this point because the left is going to get out there. Dan Strauss, it was very, very close last time. Very, very close last time because the right and the left don't like Dan Strauss, which is why he has moderated his position so much. Claudia Balducci, she wants Dow Constantine's job. She wants to be the new King County executive. And people are going to say, if you vote for Dow Constantine to be in charge of Sound Transit, why would we ever give you that job? I don't think these people realize that by paying off the favor for Dow Constantine, they are jeopardizing their own political careers. In fact, they're counting on the average voter not even knowing all this stuff, and then they get elected anyway. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Ed in Kitsap County. Ed, what's up, man?
Hey, Ari, good afternoon. I was just wondering, despite the voter base here, is it legally possible to recall somebody who's in office?
Yeah, it is, but there's a few things you have to do. You have to meet the requirements. So, for example, for Kashama Sawant, somebody had a list like 5 or 8 things, and I forget how many of them were accepted, but I think she got recalled on the basis of, let's say, 5 out of 7. It wasn't all of them. Somebody tried to do it with Jay Inslee a few years ago, and they picked some of the worst possible things to go after him for and not the things they actually had him dead to rights on.
Okay. All right. Well, at least it's possible.
Yeah, it is possible, but who are you going to recall at this point? Meaning Bob Ferguson's not the problem right now. He's not the problem. We can start recalling members of the legislature, but that's where we're at.
Well, it would probably be a member of the legislature or maybe multiples. I'm not thinking of anybody at this particular moment, but every once in a while when I'm listening to you, I'm thinking, they ought to recall that person, or they ought to recall this person.
Yeah.
But I don't have anybody in mind at the moment.
That's part of the problem, too. Plus, you have to recall so many of them. Don't forget they're a near supermajority in the Washington state legislature. And
I know.
And think of how many people. Here's your bigger problem. People are going to say, "Oh, the voting is rigged. It's rigged. It's rigged." That's not the problem. The problem is most people can't even name who their legislative member is, who their legislative representative is. And I speak firsthand from this because I was a guy who watched Fox News all the time. You know, I thought I was a conservative. I thought I was a Republican, but I didn't know who was running for mayor, and I didn't know who was running for legislature until I got more and more involved, until this stuff affected me. And that's the real problem. You ask a lot of these people who they vote for mayor, they can't tell you.
And for Republicans, sometimes they just can't get out their duff to go vote.
Mm-hmm. We saw that last time. We said, oh, well, we like this candidate. He didn't get through, so we're just going to hand it over to the other guy. Yeah, you're 100% right, Ed. 100% right. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Well, things may be absolutely terrible here in Washington State, but on the national stage, the Democrats are in complete disarray. When we come back, Chuck Schumer is trying so hard to keep his head above water, but Bill Maher and others keep pushing him back down. We'll give you the details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Things may be tough here in Washington, but we have the Golden Age of America happening in the rest of the U.S. Don't forget to be part of our Golden Age of America contest coming up at 4 o'clock. Listen for the keyword I give you for your chance to win over $2,000. And the Democrats nationally have no idea what to do. Over the weekend, Bernie Sanders and AOC were campaigning like they're running for president and vice president together. They're out there bringing in the crowds. So the Democrats' plan, even though the rest of the country is moving to the right, the Democrats' plan nationally is, okay, let's go more left. Let's embrace the socialist and the socialist. Let's embrace the bartender and the guy who's never had a job before in his life. I do love the fact that Chuck Schumer is calling everybody oligarchs who are Republicans. Okay, Bernie Sanders is worth millions of dollars, never having had a real job, having been a socialist his entire life. He is worth millions of dollars. He's got a beach house. He's got a lake house. Bernie Sanders with millions of dollars, having been in government his whole life. You cannot name any legislation he has actually accomplished, but he is somebody of power. You want to tell me how that's not an oligarch? Chuck Schumer, how much you worth? Really? You guys are the party of billionaires. You just don't like that Elon Musk is with Donald Trump. You guys got more Cuban. The polling right now for president still has Kamala Harris in the lead for 2028. Now, of course, it's early. Of course, she's the one with name recognition. Everybody else is in single digits. But you've got AOC and Bernie Sanders out there campaigning like they got a race to win. They are the ones who want to lead the Democrat Party. Everybody is going after Chuck Schumer right now, and Chuck Schumer knows he's in trouble. This is what he was saying over the weekend, which is just a complete pipe dream.
Our plan, which we're united on, is to make Donald Trump the quickest lame duck in modern history by showing how bad his policies are. He represents the oligarchs, as I said. He's hurting average people in every way. And we are, through oversight hearings, we're exposing what he's doing. Through the courts, which I mentioned, we've had some real success in. Through legislation and through organizing in all the districts throughout the country. So that I believe that because the Republicans are already nervous, you know, a lot of them said don't hold town hall meetings. I believe by 2026, the Republicans in the House and Senate will feel like they're rats on a sinking ship because we have so gone after Trump and all the horrible things he's doing, and they will know it, see it, hate it, and act on it.
Yeah, that doesn't seem to be what's going on because Trump is at some of the highest polling he's ever had in his entire political career. Meanwhile, the Democrats keep going down and down and down and down. You guys are going after the activist branch. There's only so many activists. You're embracing the people lighting Teslas on fire. What sense does that make? In fact, it's so bad that Bill Maher is definitely not in my little black book of the right-wing media conspiracy. Bill Maher is a Democrat, hates Donald Trump. Here's what he said over the weekend.
California is projected to lose 3 seats, New York 2. Also going to lose a seat, Minnesota, Oregon, Rhode Island, Illinois, all blue states. Who's getting these? Texas, Florida, Idaho, and Utah. I mean, this looks like game over, you know, and the reason why people are voting with their feet is a lot of what your book is about.
Yeah.
Taxes and regulation. I certainly have been screaming about it forever. I did 3 years with a sign here that said, how long is it going to take me to get my solar hooked up? 3 years. Talking about it on television in this state. You couldn't do it. This state has almost 400,000 regulations. I just put in a new roof because the fire, I thought, oh, let's get a roof that's not going to burn up. 2 inspections. Why are you inspecting my roof? It's my roof. If it falls on me, that's my problem. And we're taxed more than any other state. People are leaving these kind of states for places where they're not, they feel the heavy breath of government on them. It's not that hard for Democrats to understand this, but they seem to be incapable of doing anything about it.
Exactly. So who are they embracing? AOC and Bernie Sanders? That's your solution? Oh, please run them. Please run them. There's one little problem with AOC, though, and this is something I tried to explain to a few of my friends this weekend. I said to them, we're standing around, they go, why would somebody vote for AOC? And I said, dude, let's go back to high school. And I said to my friend, I said, you did pretty well with the ladies, right? And he said, well, actually, no. I go, okay. All right, maybe that didn't go the way I had hoped it did, but I said, all right. But what happens is a lot of people will vote for AOC going, so you're saying there's a chance? Because she's cute, she's attractive, and people go, oh, I'm going to vote for the pretty lady. Not realizing she's a complete lunatic. Even so, I still think she's going to lose. Bill Maher was actually discussing this more on his podcast Club Random this weekend. He had a guest on, and they were discussing how crazy the Democrat Party's going. Think about who your standard bearers are. Bernie Sanders, the old guy, and the dumb person. We did this election already. By the way, who would you vote for in an election? Let's just put this out here for a minute. I want you to text your answer in. Who would you vote for in an election? I want my Democrat friends especially to weigh in on this. Bernie Sanders versus J.D. Vance. Wait, we'll make this better, okay? Bernie Sanders and AOC versus J.D. Vance and anybody on the Republican side of the aisle. We won't even name who that person is. Who would you vote for? 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Text your answer right now. Here's what Bill Maher said about the squad members this weekend.
Dude, I wonder if, and again, I don't know too much about, the Ilhan Omar's politics or whatever.
Oh,
but
Ilhan Omar? Is that who you're talking about?
Ilhan? Or
Elon Omar.
You call her Elon Omar?
I call her that because that's her name. She's the representative from Minnesota.
I think, whatever.
Maybe I'm saying it wrong.
Ilhan, I thought it was. But I think that, like...
Whatever it is, I don't like her.
So the point that I'm trying to make here is that, like...
Is she a representative of America or Palestine, is my question.
Well, exactly right. They're embracing the lunatics who are lighting Teslas on fire. They're embracing the lunatics on college campuses. They're embracing terrorists. Good luck running with that message. Even Bernie Sanders is moderating his message. Here's what he said on the border this weekend.
Is there anything that you think Trump has done right?
Yeah, I mean, I think cracking down on fentanyl, making sure our borders are stronger. Look, nobody thinks illegal immigration is appropriate.
Wait, what? Your entire party did. I didn't hear you say anything the last 4 years. And didn't you say this like 3 years ago?
Healthcare is a human right for all, including, by the way, the undocumented in this country.
Yeah, give me a break. When even Bernie Sanders is moderating his message, you know the Democrats are in trouble. But here was something fun. They asked him about AOC running for Senate of New York. He's discussing AOC. He's literally talking about how great she is. And they ask him that, and he walks off the interview. Why? He doesn't want to pick a fight with Chuck Schumer? What's going on here? He just storms off the set with ABC.
She inspires young people all over the country.
Would you like to see her join in the Senate?
Right now, we have, as I said, just a whole lot of people in the Congress. Okay, Jonathan, thanks.
Wait, I got one more. This is important.
Well, I asked you.
Okay.
You want to do nonsense? Do nonsense.
No.
I don't want to talk about inside the Beltway stuff. I got 32,000 people.
I was just asking you about AOC because she was out there with you.
Fine, but I don't want to talk about this.
You don't want to talk about inside the Beltway stuff? That's literally what you're literally talking about AOC 10 seconds ago. You're literally talking about how wonderful she was, and you don't want to discuss if she's going to take on Chuck Schumer. You trying to keep everybody happy, Bernie? The right side of your party, the left side of your party? There's not much of a right side left. Bernie's trying to thread that needle. Yes, please, nominate the old guy and the dumb gal to run for president and vice president, because that worked out so well for you last time around. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. When we come back, Jasmine Crockett says men and women's sports is no big deal as a boy wins another girls' race in Portland. We'll have the details for you when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. AOC may have some competition for the fresh face of the Democrat Party because Jasmine Crockett is trying to challenge her for that. That's right. The Congresswoman is trying to be in as many places as possible, do as many media appearances as possible. In fact, I think she even came very, very close to doing a death threat on Elon Musk over the weekend that the FBI, Pam Bondi, even said, be very, very careful. That line you're threading there, that needle you're threading right there. Here's what she said over the weekend.
According to them, the trans kids that want to play the sports, Lord have mercy, that is the biggest issue that we had. Since when? Since when? Find the little trans child that is ruining your life. Like, I mean, I'm just like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
You want an example? Here we go. This one from the post-millennial. Trans-identifying male student won the gold in the girls' 400-meter at a track meet in Portland, Oregon on Wednesday, setting a new season record. Ada Gallagher, a junior at McDaniel High School, dominated female competitors at the Portland Interscholastic League meet, finishing first in both the 400-meter and the 200-meter races. Not only did Gallagher come out victorious in both races, the transgender student blew away the competition, according to video footage posted to X by Redux, which showed Gallagher in a major lead before crossing the finish line, particularly in the 400-meter race. By the way, that's not even an exaggeration. You see Gallagher come around the corner and cross the finish line as you're just seeing the girls come around the corner. It's not even close. Gallagher finished the 400-meter with a time frame of 57.62, while the second-place finisher, Keenalee Sophathong of Franklin High School, crossed the finish line at 105.72. Quinton Schaefer, who is Gallagher's teammate, came in third with a time of 107.13. So you're not just beating people on other teams, you're beating the ones on your team as well. How is this hurting people? Well, now people don't get scholarships. Now people don't qualify for that. What does that do for their self-esteem? In addition to that, in other games, like we saw that girl get injured with that horrible concussion who still has brain damage in that volleyball incident, people are actually getting hurt. The all-out domination came shortly after President Trump signed an executive order prohibiting biological men from participating in women's sports, threatening to pull federal funding for schools that fail to comply. The Oregon School Activities Association allows student athletes to participate on sports teams consistent with their asserted gender identity. The OSAA is the governing body for the Portland Interscholastic League. Despite threats of federal funds being withheld, the policy has not changed. By the way, this is just like what's happening here in Washington. The Washington Interscholastic Athletic Association, they are weighing those changes we've discussed a few times before, where they're considering, because right now you can compete at whatever league you identify in, they're weighing creating a girls' league and a boys/trans league, and then they're debating creating girls' league, boys' league, trans league. I actually think that one makes the most amount of sense. But given all that's going on, we know that Chris Rakedahl sent them a very intimidating letter saying, yeah, we don't like that you're doing that so much. We may have to pull state funding from you. And in fact, he's doing that to many school districts across the state. A lot of you have forwarded me some of these communications you've gotten from his office about these threats that he's sending out. And meanwhile, Chris Rakedahl, we know, is threatening school districts with pulling their money while saying to the Trump administration, how dare you threaten our money? Absolute insanity. Absolute insanity. So who's getting hurt? Yeah, there are girls getting hurt. So the next time Jasmine Crockett or anybody in the Democrat Party says, believe all women or women's rights or any of that, you say you are literally the ones advocating to destroy women's sports. That's on you guys. Meanwhile, CTV, Canadian TV, had this fun little story about the Edmonton City Council, and I don't even know what they're talking about.
Today to recognize Two-Spirit and Indigenous LGBTQIA+ Awareness Day. The Two-Spirit flag showcases a rainbow with two eagle feathers to symbolize the balance of masculine and feminine spirits. The celebration at City Hall featured drumming and cultural performances. Organizers say the day is meant to honor and acknowledge Two-Spirit people within the community. They say the recognition is a reminder of Indigenous representation in Canada.
And so today is a practice of remembering who we are, being who we are, and understanding that it's beautiful to be queer. It's beautiful.
I don't understand what any of that meant. Two-Spirit? What does that mean? You've got a male and female person living in your body and you're very confused over that? This is a serious mental illness we have going on in our country, and people are treating it like it's normal, which it's not. We go to the Warrior Injury Law text line, seeing what you guys weighed in versus J.D. Vance versus Bernie Sanders. I like this one from Pam and Lake Stevens. J.D. Vance and anybody gets my vote. From the 425, this is Mike and Everett. It says, I would vote for JD and whoever. Hands down, all day, every day, from the other Mike and Everett. That's a good one. Almost everybody says JD Vance. Here's another one. This is another one from the 253. JD Vance and anyone over Sanders and AOC. Yeah, that seems to be the one that's going on here. In fact, here's one. There's a lot of sad ones actually coming through with people upset about the voting system. This one here from the 360, I have absolutely zero faith in this system. This is the most corrupt voting system I've ever seen in my entire life. I am not even from here. Every single election season I've seen since I've been here, more votes come in until the Democrats win. Yeah, that's what we're saying. In fact, I got some here, which are some people talking about. This one right here from Karen. Ari, I am 80 years old. I can't afford this state any longer. Beginning plans to move. I've lived here my entire life. This is the kind of stuff that's blowing up our text line right now because people see what happens with the electrification. They know how much it's going to cost. They know exactly right. So Jay writes, force everyone to electrify, tear down the Snake River dams. Here come the blackouts. Yeah, 100% right. 100% right. 425. Time to move. Our votes matter. Yeah. So Michael from Camino Island says, can we take it to the U.S. Supreme Court? Well, I assume you mean what's going on with the natural gas ban. Right now, I think it stops at the Washington State Supreme Court. Hasn't gone there yet, but we know what they did with the car tabs, and we know what's likely to happen this time around as well. Well, if you're going to continue living in the state, my friends, you're going to need a lot more money. Don't forget, coming up at 4 o'clock is your chance to win over $2,000 during our Golden Age of America contest. Plus, when we come back, my friends, there's some good news in the crime category around here in Washington. It's not because the Democrats did anything. It's because you did. We'll tell you what it was when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up at 4:45, my review of Snow White and your chance to win fantabulous prizes during our Real Deal giveaway. But before we get to any of that, my friends, it is time for you to be part of Trump's golden age of America with your chance to win $2,025 plus a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card.
The golden age of America, I call it. It's begun. So it's the golden age of America, and that's what it's going to be.
That's what it's going to be, my friends. So now is your chance to win $2,025 and a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card. All you have to do is text the keyword that I give you to the number that I give you. Do not text your name. Do not text your address. Do not text your phone number. Do not text anything other than the word itself. If you text anything other than the word, you will invalidate your entry.
But we're going to usher in a new golden age of American success.
Exactly. Now, if you want to be part of the golden age of America's success, all you have to do is text the keyword ACE, A-C-E. That's ACE, spelled A-C-E. As in, I hope I have the ace of spades when I'm playing poker tonight. To 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. You have until 5 p.m. to enter. Your next chance at winning comes tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. during the commute with Carlson. Check out danielsbroiler.com to reserve a table, place your takeout or delivery order, and more.
The golden age of America, I call it. It's begun. So it's the golden age of America, and that's what it's going to be.
Exactly. So you have until 5 o'clock to text the keyword ACE, A-C-E, to 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. And I hope you win. Tell you why I hope you win. Because what the Democrats in Olympia have coming for you is the largest tax increase in state history. It's so bad, even King 5 couldn't avoid talking about it.
These proposals would bring about the biggest tax hike in state history. It would also tinker with the state sales tax for the first time since the early 1980s. But the Democrats behind it say it's time for an overhaul.
Here, then we got 2 facts.
The list of new taxes would support everything from schools to public safety. Without increasing taxes, cops, kids, and most state-supported services would see drastic cuts, according to Senate Democrats, who believe the public is behind them.
The voters are really interested both in making sure that wealthy people and businesses pay their fair share of the tax burden in our state, and that they don't want to see vital services cut.
First on the list, a new financial intangibles tax targeting the state's wealthiest 4,300 residents. Senate Democrats also proposed a large employer payroll tax, similar to Seattle's Jumpstart tax, impacting the 5,000 largest companies statewide. The current 1% property tax cap would go away for local and state governments. Instead, they could rise as high as population growth and inflation. The state's sales tax would be cut by 0.5 percentage point under the Senate Democrats' package.
Many would acknowledge, even the wealthiest among us, that our tax code is deeply, deeply unfair.
State Senator Noel Frame says increasing taxes on the state's wealthiest investors will not send them out of state.
We have the talent they need. We have the beautiful natural resources that they love. We are continuing our commitment to invest in our public schools and other public institutions that matter. That is why people want to live here.
In total, you're looking at about $18 billion of taxes over the 4-year period. It is the largest tax increase in our state's history by far, bar none.
Republican Senator Chris Gildon says the budget can be balanced without any new taxes or deep cuts. He says going after the richest Washingtonians is a bad idea.
They could very easily come visit Mount Rainier whenever they want to. They have a house somewhere else. They have choices. I think capital flight is a very real risk under this proposal.
There still would be cuts under the Senate Democrats' budget proposal. We are expecting to see full budget proposals from the House and the Senate on Monday. In Olympia, Drew Mickelson, King 5 News.
Do you know why I chose King 5's version of that? And you're going to say, Ari, this is making me more mad because you chose a lefty version of that. Do you know why? You just heard the spin. You just heard the spin. That report was 2 minutes and 30 seconds long. Until the last 30 seconds, you didn't hear a single word about cuts. Not one. Even Bob Ferguson has brought up $4 billion worth of cuts. The game here is very, very obvious, the game plan. Bob Ferguson's trying to be the good guy and saying, well, I came up with all these cuts. It's the legislature. They're the ones that want to tax you into oblivion, and they're gonna do it. And the legislature is going to go, well, these stupid people in Washington, they're going to vote for us again anyway. You know why? We're going to give them a little rebate. We're going to give them 0.5% discount on their sales tax. And the average person goes, look, they're giving me a cut. And you know what? I don't own a home anyway. I'm a renter. So an increase in property taxes, that's not going to affect me, because every time there's an increase in property taxes, they're like, yeah, make my landlord pay for that. Yeah, make him pay for it. And the dummy heads don't realize when their rent goes up, that's why, because the landlord isn't just going to eat it. But what's the other thing the Democrats have put in place? They've also put in place the rent control. That's what they want. Also, on top of all this, which is going to go to Bob Ferguson's desk, and he's going to sign it. So now what's going to happen is they're going to bring down this massive increase on property taxes. It's going to go up. Landlords are going to go, screw it. I can't afford this anymore. They're going to sell the building to somebody else, and it's going to get turned into low-income housing. That's what's going to happen. You are literally going to price people out of the market. You're going to price small mom-and-pop landlords out of the market, and everybody's going to be paying more money. On top of that, what Senator Gildon is 100% correct. People are going to move. That's exactly what's going to happen. People are going to say, nope, I'm out of here, especially if they're the uber wealthy. Can I think of a guy that did that already? Wasn't there a guy named Jeff Bezos who did just that, taking with him hundreds of millions of dollars in tax revenue? That's exactly what happened. The game here is quite obvious. Bob Ferguson's going to try and look like the good guy. The Democrats in Olympia are going to be the bad guys, but they're going to say, no, we're really the good guys. We're really, really the good guys. We promise, because we're cutting your sales tax 0.5%. Doesn't matter that your employer is picking up his business and moving it out of state. Doesn't matter the fact that your property taxes are going up, which even if you don't own property, it's going to make your rent go up. None of that matters. We are cutting your sales tax by 0.5%. This is an absolute disaster. And it's going to be disastrous for Washington's economy. It's going to be an absolute nightmare. Now, as usual, while things are bad here in Washington state, things are good at the federal level. So here's one that I was laughing about. This one from Como News. At least 14 federal buildings in Washington state are targeted for lease terminations by President Trump and the Department of Government Efficiency, a move that the group says will result in over $6 million in saving. The buildings were listed on DOJ's wall of receipts under the government's accounting for lease terminations and associated savings. The list was last updated on March 19th. The targeted buildings are mostly centered in the northwestern part of the state, including multiple sites in Seattle and Olympia. Some of the agencies affected include the Government Accountability Office in Seattle, 3 Natural Resource Conservation Services sites, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration in Olympia, the Bureau of Indian Affairs in Toppenish, and the Employment Standards Administration in Richland. Is there a reason they can't all be in the same place? Do we really need that many people working in these offices? Well, somebody who's not happy about the proposed cuts by Bob Ferguson is his own staff. In fact, his own staff has walked out in protest last week because they don't like the fact that he's suggesting trimming the 800 lawyers and God knows how many staff he hired for the Attorney General's office when he was Attorney General.
Staff at the State Attorney General's office held a walkout today to bring attention to proposed financial cuts in furloughs. The noon walkout took place outside of their offices, including in Seattle, Olympia, Tacoma, and Everett. Now, the union says that the proposed cuts to the AG's office will impact a number of divisions that do important work for our state.
So we're hoping that every legislator understands that the work of the Attorney General's office, which a lot of people I understand don't know, so we need to advocate for ourselves. But the work that we do is to keep criminals behind bars or put them there, and also the civil rights and everything that's coming from the other Washington that right now we're having to defend for our Washingtonians' safety and security.
Organizers are encouraging people to contact their local state representatives to ensure their voices and concerns about these cuts are being heard.
Hang on a second. What criminals do you guys put behind bars? What criminals do you put behind bars? You guys have had 12 years of Bob Ferguson, and crime went through the roof. Bob Ferguson was busy prosecuting cops. The only people I know he was going after was the Trump administration. What criminals did you put behind bars? If you were putting criminals behind bars, you did a really terrible job of it. In fact, now Washington State Attorney General Nick Brown is all mad about this.
As the wind barreled through downtown Seattle, proposed budget cuts to the state attorney general's office stirred up a storm of pushback.
So we're asking for no cuts to our budget and to no furloughs for us at all.
Governor Bob Ferguson, the former AG, is asking most state agencies to cut 6% of their budget.
I've heard the words betrayal used. I think that's not sufficient. I'm not sure that he knew when he went in exactly how bad it was, but we're disappointed.
The only exceptions are K through 12 education and public safety.
Any dollars cut from our funding impedes our ability to do our work, and it costs money a lot more down the road of pretty much anything that we do.
No cuts, no furloughs.
The Attorney General's office handles legal work for the state, from consumer protections to defending the state in court. The budget for the AG's office for 2023 to 2025 is $671.5 million and has a current staff of 1,816.
That money now more than ever is necessary for us to protect not only Washingtonians, but the most vulnerable within our population.
Hundreds of staff and assistant attorneys general walked out, not just in Seattle, but all across the state.
Well, we want to send a message. We can't strike like a typical government agency. We are prevented from doing that. The best we can do is a walkout to send a message to legislators, to lawmakers, that these cuts are going to cause more problems than they help fix in the near term.
Hoping to get the attention of lawmakers who ultimately will decide the budget.
We need other budget ideas that do not cost every state employee every 4 years to fear sitting at home. So some new streams of income would be really great.
Lawmakers have until April 27th, when the legislative session adjourns, to finalize a balanced budget. In Seattle, Bridget Chavez, King 5 News.
Over 1,000 people are working in that office. Wow, it takes a lot of energy to sue Trump all day long, doesn't it? They're not trying to keep criminals behind bars. If they were, Bob Ferguson said, we're not making any cuts to public safety. He literally said that. They wouldn't be cutting this office. He knows that's not what they do. Oh, by the way, there was some good news over the weekend that Bob Ferguson's going to take credit for, and the Democrats are going to take credit for. You ready for this one? Car thefts in Washington State have dropped to their lowest point in 15 years after a citizen advocacy organization ran an initiative to reinstate police pursuits that Democrats banned. According to February car theft data from the Puget Sound Auto Theft Task Force, through the end of the month, there were 3,346 car thefts in the Evergreen State. The number is a massive drop from 2022, when there were more than 8,000 car thefts during the same time. Auto theft skyrocketed in 2021 and 2022 after Washington Democrats passed legislation that was signed into law by Democratic Governor Jay Inslee that banned many forms of pursuit in response to the BLM and Antifa riots that rocked the Seattle area in 2020. Cases of suspects fleeing the police spiked by the thousands following the passage of the bill, with one criminal even calling 911 to cite the legislation to demand police stop pursuing him. The bad legislation was blamed for deaths, including 12-year-old Immaculate Goldade, who was walking home after playing outside the school with a friend, Kathleen Olson, also 12, when a stolen truck hit the girls near their school. Immaculate died at the scene, and Kathleen was severely injured. A bipartisan fix for the flawed legislation was passed in the Washington House, but Democratic Senator Manka Dhingra, chair of the Senate Law and Justice Committee and Deputy Majority Leader of the Washington State Senate, refused to let the bill advance, citing faulty data that falsely claimed the original legislation saved lives. The study was slammed by experts and shortly thereafter pulled from websites. After 2 years of chaos and lawlessness, let's go Washington. You know them well as a citizen action group, collected enough signatures to qualify Initiative 2113 and 5 other initiatives to roll back disastrous Democrat policies. I-2113 allowed police pursuits if an officer had reasonable suspicion that someone had broken the law and poses a threat to safety of others. Though many Democrats opposed the fix, it passed with bipartisan support. Since then, Washington has seen a steady decline in car thefts. And through October 2024, the state saw a 30% decline from 2023 in vehicle thefts. That's because of Brian Haywood, Let's Go Washington, and you. That is not because of anything the Democrats did. In fact, this session, they're trying to put more restrictions back on police. They're trying to reduce sentences. They're trying to let more criminals out of jail. Speaking of letting criminals out of jail, Timothy Pauly. We've been covering this mass murderer for years, ever since I got on the air, and long before that, who killed 3 people in a bar in SeaTac back in 1980. Well, Governor Jay Inslee, on the way out the door, signed an order which was going to commute the rest of his sentence, let him out of jail. He was reversing his own order, which originally kept him in jail, even though the sentencing board was about to release him. Well, the family of Pauly's victims met with Bob Ferguson this morning, and the news is reporting that now Bob Ferguson is considering whether or not he should stop Jay Inslee's order. What's to consider? What's to consider? He's worried about how much flack he's going to get from the legislature because he's already getting tons of it because the Democrats are in disarray, even though they're making our lives miserable. So now we found out this morning that Tara Simmons, that's right, Tara Simmons, the one who advocates for all this soft-on-crime policy, Tara Simmons was actually saying she was giving full credit to Jay Inslee, talking about how wonderful it was with Timothy Pauly. She's the one who's been advocating for him to get out of jail. So, all of you who said, oh, isn't it nice? She turned her life around. She has been an advocate for criminals the entire time. We've all known it. Tara Simmons, the former convict who's now in the Washington legislature on the Democrat side of the aisle, who comes out with all these soft on crime policies, all this stuff to rehabilitate offenders. How'd that work out with Percy Levy, by the way? Percy Levy, the guy held up as the poster child for the Democrats in terms of sentencing reform. Oh, look, Jay Inslee pardoned him, let him out. And then he was caught with enough fentanyl to kill a third of Snohomish County. Guys, what they are doing is clear. They are trying to make you so scared that you vote for any tax increase to keep public safety, that you support any tax increase so that you can keep public safety, so you can keep police officers and prosecutors. That is literally what they are doing right now. The Democrats have not ever been on the side of law and order since I've had a radio show. You should be asking yourselves why magically they are now. It's to keep you scared so you keep supporting this insanity, especially King County voters. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from John in Lakewood. John, what's going on?
Yo, hey, Ari. Following this decision by Judge Widlin in King County, first of all, I'm wondering how the Sierra Club and Washington Conservation Action, who are the 2 litigants, have standing in trying to have this overturned. What kind of standing do they have? That's one thing I'd like to know.
The environment.
Secondly,
don't you know they advocate for the environment? It's the environment.
How can they prove that natural gas is damaging them, especially when they probably are using utilities that are produced still by natural gas and coal?
Because it's the environment. Because it's the environment, John.
Whoop-de-doo. Well, here's another thing I wanted to say.
Yeah.
Washington Conservation Action received $90,000 from Olympia in this biennium. So what's that all about?
Oh, you mean they're funding the people who are filing the lawsuit? Of course they are.
Yes, they are.
Yes.
Okay, the other thing I wanted to say is we have 32 superior courts in Washington state and approximately 174 superior court judges. How can one make a constitutional decision that affects every other district? And if that's the case, should we not get a consensus or try to get this in front of friendlier superior court judges who may countermand?
Absolutely. But don't forget, it's going to go to the Washington State Supreme Court eventually, and then it stops there. and we're screwed with them. Because, no, we're screwed with them. I mean, look, if they do this again to us,
you're right.
which they already
Yeah,
did,
that's correct.
which they already did with the $30 car tabs, that's what I'm worried about, my friend. But yeah, John, you bring up some excellent points, my friend. The
Thank
fix
you, Laurie.
was
Appreciate
in.
it.
Yeah, always appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, did UW grow a spine? Or are they just scared to death of losing their federal funding? We've got all details on the latest fun for you when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. I got to take you back in time a couple weeks for this story so you get the full picture of what's going on. Let's go back I don't know, about 17 months to begin with this. So what happens? October 7th happens. University of Washington becomes one of the most prominent places in the U.S. for anti-Semitic hate, anti-American hate, you name it. And they basically let the Hamasniks have the run of the campus. And they have let them have the run of the campus. And anytime they condemn anti-Semitism, which is rare, they have to couch it with Islamophobia. Which, by the way, can we discuss Islamophobia for a second? If I have a whole religion of people that are calling to blow me up, yeah, I'm going to be scared. I'm going to take efforts to defend myself. I'm so tired of that word. It's really, really dumb, by the way. So, moving on from there. What's happened is University of Washington has never found a protest they didn't support, they didn't like, they didn't let them get away with whatever they want. Whether that was supporting terrorists on campus, whether that was having vigils for terrorists on campus, whether that was blocking Jewish students and faculty from walking on campus, whether that was harassing Turning Point USA when Charlie Kirk came to campus. Never, ever did anything about it. They let them vandalize their buildings and just clean up the mess afterwards. They let them vandalize their trucks that were cleaning up the mess afterwards. You're talking about tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in damage over the course of the last 17 months, civil rights complaints, one after another, lawsuits, and they've never done anything about it. Well, a couple weeks ago, somebody sent me a link that Super UW, which is one of these pro-Hamas organizations, had been suspended on campus, that they weren't allowed to be on campus anymore. This actually happened at the end of last year. They were suspended. Why? Because the Hub, the Husky Union building, got vandalized, over $50,000 worth of damage during one of their events, and they said, you're suspended. Okay, but they still let them have events on campus. In fact, by my math, they've had at least 2 events on campus since they've been suspended. So being suspended doesn't even mean anything. What happened, though? They were leasing them the building for another event coming up in April. But what happened was, all of a sudden, they said, when I reached out to them for comment, they said, oh, no, we're not leasing it to them anymore. That's been terminated. Well, now, what happens? The Super UW crew has posted online their timeline of events. It talks about how they originally did get approval, how they originally were granted use of the building, and then, magically, it was taken away. I went and checked their dates. Not only does it coincide with when I reached out for comment, but you know what else it coincides with? Donald Trump pulling $430 million from Columbia University. So, University of Washington didn't magically grow a spine. What happened was the University of Washington said, we don't want to lose hundreds of millions of dollars because we know we're on the same lists that Columbia is. And we don't want to be on Donald Trump's list anymore. And now that this thing is public, we got to pull it right away. It's amazing what losing $400 million in funding at one university will show everybody else. I don't think UW's turning over a new leaf. I just think they're worried about losing their funding. When we come back, Democrats in disarray. Congressman Adam Smith will be joining us to discuss the infighting inside his own party. You're not going to want to miss this interview. Plus, after that, my review of Snow White. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570, KVI. Over the weekend, it looked like many people on the far left of the Democratic Party were making a play to be the leadership of the Democrat Party. Is this a schism going on in the party? Is the whole party going on over to the left? What's actually happening? I figured it was best to invite one of our Democratic friends on. So joining us now on the KVI studio line is Democrat Adam Smith, who is our congressman from right here in Washington. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Well, thanks, Ari. I always appreciate the chance to be on.
We love having you on the show because we can have these conversations, and unfortunately there are others that don't take advantage of the opportunity, but we like having you on. So you've been getting it in the teeth recently from some people on your own side as you say, hey guys, the radical messaging isn't working. Can we return to a little bit more common sense kind of stuff? What's going on right now?
Well, look, I mean, there's a whole lot going on within the Democratic Party because obviously we are not fond of the Trump presidency or what the Republican Congress is doing. It was a bitter, bitter defeat losing that election, and there's a lot of soul searching going on. Where do we go from here? And it's got two parts. One, how do we stand up to what Trump is doing? There are a lot of legitimate concerns about that, which I share. I won't get into a laundry list right at the moment, but there are reasons to be concerned. But then crucially, how do we effectively do that? The one thing I definitely agree with is I think we got to be aggressive. We got to be vocal about it. I disagree with James Carville, let's lay down and play dead and let the Republicans screw up. No, I think we have to be engaged in a aggressive messaging, an aggressive policy approach. But then the second part of it is, what is that message? What is that policy? What have Democrats learned from the fact that we lost an election that we didn't think we should lose? And we're losing in some swing states. We're losing in swing districts. How do we fix what ails the Democratic Party? And I start from the premise that our coalition is broken. It's not where it needs to be. We need to have an open, honest conversation about where we go going forward. And I got some opinions about that, but as a starting point, I think we have to acknowledge that we got big challenges.
So we saw over the weekend that Bernie Sanders, who in my mind represents the left of the party, but is one step shy of the Ilhan Omars of the party, he is going around talking about how border security is important. And I'm thinking to myself, well, where was he the past few years when we saw what happened during the last presidency? And it seems like he's trying to moderate in a different direction. Do you think that's the direction the party's taking, or is that just the direction the extreme left is taking?
I think there's no one-size-fits-all here. First of all, large coalition, a lot of people doing a lot of different things, but I think there are a couple of general themes. And one thing I do agree with where Bernie and ARC is coming from is we have to get back to focusing on the working class. Like economic policy from both Republicans and Democrats over the course of the last 40 years has left a lot of people behind. There's a lot of people struggling economically, struggling to pay for housing, for health care, for education, struggling to get a job that pays them enough to afford those things. We need to address the working class directly and figure out how to help them. There's too much concentration of wealth. But then I think it is heartening that we're looking at some of the other areas where we fell short, and immigration is certainly one of them. I think we need to acknowledge that border security was not as big a priority as it should have been. So addressing the concerns that voters have about the Democratic Party is an important part of our message. And that is part of what I'm saying. And look, I got criticism of centrists and moderates too. The basic economic idea that, well, everyone was going to go off and get an education and become an engineer or a computer scientist, so everything was going to be fine, that really wasn't going to work. We need to help working class people. I mean, people driving trucks and working in warehouses, or like my father, loading bags on and off of an airplane. They need to get paid. They need to get decent benefits and decent wages. So we need to address both sides of this. Now, the part locally, we need to govern better. That's part of my argument. Democrats in areas like Seattle and King County, and I know you'll disagree with this, Ari. You'll say, hey, the Democrats are doing a great job in the state of Washington. Everything's fine. But I'm going to be bold and say that I think we can do better. I mean, let's just look at an issue that Democrats and Republicans ought to agree on. Housing. We're not building enough housing. The process that it takes, how expensive it is, all of the impediments that are put into place, burdens on people who own housing or apartment buildings. We're not building enough housing. We got to get better at that. So I think it's a whole lot of different things, but the central message is if Democrats want to defeat Donald Trump, and I do, we got to get better in terms of the policies that we advocate for and how we implement them.
You just gave me a whole lot to digest right there. We're talking with Congressman Adam Smith. I'll take a little bit. This is like getting the Trump press releases I get all the time. There's just too much to cover all of it. So we'll take a little bit that I think ties together. So we've seen what happened at the University of Washington. We've seen what happened on other college campuses. This may tie into what you said during a recent New Yorker profile where you called the new left. It also seems like a lot of people at these college campuses, they're not walking out with usable degrees. It seems like they're walking out more with supporting Hamas than any useful skills to go through life. And rather, we should have people like, for example, I should not have gone to college. I would have been a lot better off going to a trade school. And it seems like Donald Trump has actually captured a big chunk of the union representatives who are saying we've been failed by these policies. So do you think all that tied together, it's ripe for reform, especially on the campus system?
100%. I mean, look, our education system, workforce development is one of the key issues that I focus on. And look back, and I got in just under the wire. I graduated from high school in 1983. College was still very affordable. And also, if you got a college degree, that was enough probably to get a job, even if you didn't have a specific skill. But that's radically changed since then. First of all, the cost of getting that 4-year degree is off the charts. The tuition that I paid for 7 years of school, I got a law degree, was right around $31,000. If you went to the same schools that I went to now, it would be over $450,000. It's just not affordable. But also, as you alluded to, employers are looking for specific skills. The good old days of the 60s and the 70s when you could go out, get a 4-year degree in, I don't know, English poetry, prove that you got your degree, and then GM or Boeing or IBM or somebody would hire you, train you for a year, and then you'd be fine. They're gone. We need to give people access to trade skills, and yet we will loan you $200,000 to go off and get that degree in English poetry. But a lot of times you can't get money to go out and learn how to be a cable installer or a welder or a construction worker or an auto mechanic. So we need to change that system and move it away from running up all this massive debt to actually helping people develop skills they need to be employable and well paid. Yes, it is absolutely ripe for reform.
That's why I like where my son's going to college right now in Israel, because his major, when you choose a major, the core curriculum classes they have are more designed towards the major, not let's give you a good general education, because the general education is what's failing a lot of these kids, because they come out and they've done some English lit and they've done a little math here and that, but they have no usable skills. In the last few minutes we have with Representative Adam Smith from our very own Seattle, Washington, it seems like there was a little bit of a conflict between you and the other representative, Pramila Jayapal. Now, I will automatically take your side because you actually come on my show and you actually show up to the synagogues and stuff. But what was the resolution to all that? Because it sounded like she was pretty miffed at you.
Yeah, she was. Look, I started talking specifically about some of the failings of the Democratic Party and some of the failings of progressive leadership. And again, I will emphasize, there's plenty of failings of centrist leadership as well. I've acknowledged those, and I'm trying to work through them. But I think we can also look, and you've seen it, again, some of the policies around how we build housing. Criminal justice. We have not had accountability and personal responsibility in it. We obviously have a major homeless problem, a major drug abuse problem. And I just think those policies can be updated so that we can get to a better place. Now, I'm not in a particular conflict with Pramila. She liked some of the things I said. We talked about it. Yeah, I agree with her on some things, but I just don't see why we can't look at Democratic-run areas like Washington State, like my district. I know in the article she said I was criticizing her district. I need to remind her I actually represent a good chunk of Seattle, and also South King County, which is what I'm talking about. If you go down to Kent, Federal Way, Renton, major problems down there with affordable housing, with drug abuse, with homelessness, with crime. And I'm working with the mayors down there to figure out how we can better address those issues. And I don't see why any Democrat, progressive, centrist, wherever you're at, shouldn't want to do that, shouldn't want to learn from our mistakes and figure out how can we do things better. Like, none of this is easy. I'm not judging people and saying, oh, you were stupid. How could you? But let's learn as we go and figure out how we can better deliver for American people. Because, look, Democrats believe in the power of collective action to help people. Right now, people doubt that. So we have got to work and come up with a message that says to the American people and people in my district, we're going to help make your life better. We're going to address the issues and concerns, many of which you skillfully addressed here in this interview. we're going to get better at that, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Congressman Adam Smith, we love having you on the show. We like that you come on the show. And for everybody who's blowing up my phone lines likely because of this interview, just know it's important to engage with the people you disagree with. Otherwise, you never come to a consensus. And also, living in your own echo chamber is not the way to go. You have to hear out the other side. And there are a lot of things we are going to find common ground on. Representative Adam Smith, thank you so much for joining us today, as always, and always being available whenever we ask you to join us.
Well, thanks, Ari, and amen to your summary there. Completely agree.
Very kind of you to say. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues, including opportunities to win fantabulous prizes. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. I had no intention of going to see Woke White, of going to see the new Snow White, given all the drama surrounding it. Plus, I typically don't like these live-action remakes of Disney classics. Keep them classic. Come up with new ideas. You want something new? Open up Grimm's Fairy Tales and find something you haven't done yet. Or you want to be woke? Fine. Pull out some legend from Africa. Make a story about that. Anything you can do, but instead, why are we rebooting the old stuff? You don't need to do that. What happens? I come home on Friday, and my wife says, "What are we doing Saturday night?" And I said, "I have no plans. I was just planning on sitting on my butt." And she goes, "Oh, good. I got tickets for you, me, and our daughter to go see Snow White." And I'm like, ah. Now, mind you, this is fine. You know why? Mike, what was I saying on Friday? I was criticizing all the people who jumped all over the movie for not seeing the movie. And I said, if the movie happens to be actually good, you'll get egg on your face, but you also sound like a damn fool when you haven't actually seen the movie. Well, I sat through the entire thing, but let me give you an insight into the experience for a moment. We go out to AMC Factoria, one of my favorite movie theaters. It's got the recliners. It's cheaper than the other AMCs, and there's nobody there. Nobody there. So I walk in, and of course, me being me, I go,
"Wait, I'm sorry, who was there?"
Nobody. Nobody. So, of course, I joke and go, "Gee, you think we can actually, be on the line for the snacks before going back into the theater and still make it on time for the showing?" And the staff was laughing.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. The staff was laughing. It was so bad how few people were there. There's no other movies out right now that anybody wants to see. Disney figured we got to turn it on our hands. Let's put it somewhere where we're not up against anything else, and maybe people will go see the thing. There was nobody there. I go into the theater. I put the video of me walking into the theater online. I got there about 10 minutes before showtime. Not a single other person in the theater. And they put it in theater number 1, which is the big theater for big opening weekends. Nobody there. By the time the movie started, 10 people were there. 10 people aside from us. That's 13 total in this 200-person theater. That's it. 13 people. What happens? 2 of the people left in the middle of the movie. The lady behind us was snoring so much so that we heard her during the movie. That should tell you all about the movie. Before we even get into the controversy with Rachel Zegler or anything else, let me tell you about the movie itself. We were hoping for Disney magic. We got Disney tragic. This thing was a train wreck disaster. Rachel Zegler was tragically miscast. And mind you, I liked her in the West Side Story remake. I thought she was charming in that. She was terrible in this. Gal Gadot chewing the scenery the entire time. But here's my biggest question. If you're going to do a live action remake, why is everything CGI? Isn't that just modern day cartoons? The entire movie is CGI. The environments, the characters, the dwarves, everything is CGI. You couldn't get Peter Dinklage and some friends in there to do that? It was terrible.
I had a lengthy discussion with Mr. KVI earlier about this scourge of live-action remakes from Disney, and we talked about The Lion King. And I'm like, oh, yeah, so it started off as a hand-drawn cartoon, and it became a computer-animated cartoon.
Yes.
It's still a cartoon. There's nothing, quote-unquote, live-action about it. A lot of fans skipped Transformers 1 last year because it's an animated cartoon. It's a Pixar-style cartoon. Sure. They're like, no, we want it to be live-action. It's like, it's not live-action. It's animated. What are you talking about?
Exactly. None of this is live-action. I will say Beauty and the Beast did a good job of you not feeling the CGI during the live-action remake. There's still CGI in it. I still had the same question. This thing, all CGI. Plus, they brought on the team that did the soundtrack, the score for The Greatest Showman. All the songs. So we play it at the end of the show every day. I love The Greatest Showman. Wow, did they drop the ball. The songs are terrible. Even the original songs that they remade are terrible. Everything is bad. Oh, the Prince thing. Let's remember what she said about the handsome prince that ticked everybody off.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird. We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because, we cast a guy in the movie. Right. Andrew Burnap, great dude. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby.
Well, I think they were all put back in Because you know those set photos that leaked and everybody goes, why are the 7 dwarves not dwarves and tall? They're the huntsman's merry men. Don't forget the story is originally called Snow White and the Huntsman. So they're the huntsman's merry men that she's hanging out with. They're not the dwarves. He's the love interest. There's no prince. There is still a kiss. I'm sorry I'm giving away a decades-old ending, which brings her back to life. But here's a few problems with it. My wife noticed that Rachel Zegler's hair is very, very different, and she's wearing a wig for the entire last third of the movie. That's likely what was reshot in response to this. People wanted the love story. People wanted the prince, so they made it the huntsman. Okay, fine, no big deal. But my wife, once again being brilliant, had a great point. She said, if you're going to remake this thing and try and do something different, do it like the actual Grimm's fairy tale, which is dark and creepy, and bring in Tim Burton. And at least we'll say this is the Grimm's fairy tale version. We'll watch it. Maybe not everybody, but at least it's something different. Or you know what you could have done? Re-released Snow White, digitally remastered, and you would have made more money than this thing made. This thing is a box office disaster. It's one thing if you have a bad movie. And then you have a good press tour and people go and they just go, all right, just don't, you don't need to do this. Wait for Disney Plus. You would have made double the money this movie made opening weekend. But the problem here is you had Rachel Zegler going around insulting Jews, praising Palestinians, insulting Trump supporters, insulting Trump. There was insulting the original movie. You could study this in a marketing class of how not to market something and how your lead actress could jeopardize your entire movie. Here's what she said about wearing the dress.
If I'm going to stand there 18 hours in a dress of an iconic Disney princess, I deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed online.
She got $3 million. How much more do you want for it? You got $3 million to be in this movie. Gal Gadot got more. You know why? She's a bigger star than you. That's how it works. You got $3 million to be in this movie. I don't want to hear about the dress, the CG dress, by the way, which at some points I think it was. Half the time you were CG. I know that whole water scene. That wasn't you in the thing. The movie's terrible. Skip it. Absolutely skip this movie. Especially because here's what she said in response to the backlash.
And to everyone who hates when I win, the winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her. And I can only hope that despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them, that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
Yeah, nobody's waiting in line to see this. There was no line. There's nobody there. This movie deserves to bomb. Disney should stop making these live-action remakes that are terrible. But on top of that, give us something new and original. Something else. Rachel Zegler probably is unbankable right now as a Hollywood star. Sure, some movies may cast her going, oh, we like that woke energy. We're going to try and make her popular again. But who wants to take the risk? Is anybody asking Dylan Mulvaney to rep their products anymore? No, of course not. She did this to herself with all the comments she made. Free Palestine. You're starring with Gal Gadot, who's Israeli. That was probably a dig at her. Talking about all the blank Donald Trump, blank all his supporters, all that. You did this to yourself. You did this to your own movie. You sabotaged your own movie where people would have gone and been like, it's a remake, whatever. Instead, you messed with a beloved classic. You made it terrible. And your lead actress managed to piss off everybody who goes to see a movie except for the woke people. Sorry, guys, they're not the ones who take their families to see Disney because a lot of them don't have families. I went because it made my wife and my daughter happy. I'm happy I went so I could experience how bad it was to tell you not to go see this movie.
There you go. Well, and we had talked about this, and apparently Disney doesn't listen to the Ari Hoffman show because we said quietly put this on the plus. Just like that Pinocchio movie that I have to remind people is a movie that happened. They made a live-action remake of Pinocchio, didn't release it theatrically during COVID, and just quietly put it on the plus because it stinks. It is terrible. In the last minute here before we give away our fantabulous prizes, how did the Hoffman ladies take to it.
They hated it.
Okay.
They hated it. It would be one thing. You know me. You know what I always say. Well, it's not for me. It's for my wife. It's for my daughter. It's for whatever. They hated it. Absolutely hated it. They had nothing good to say about it at all. Everything from the costumes, from the scenery, for everything. They did not like it at all. Avoid this movie. Before I forget, your chance to win fantabulous prizes. Today we are giving away two tickets to an advanced screening of Drop from blockbuster producers Michael Bay and Jason Blum and acclaimed horror director Christopher Landon. Comes a blood-chilling, original, fast-paced thriller, Drop. You can see Drop in theaters on April 11th. All you have to do in order to win these fantabulous prizes, be caller number 10 at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Well, my friends, lots more to discuss as the show continues. When we come back, latest and Saturday from Washington State, Washington, D.C., and so much more. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Congratulations to Jim in Renton. Not only is it your birthday today, but you are the proud winner of 2 tickets to an advanced screening of Drop. Your next chance to win is coming up at 5:45. During the last hour, Mike got a tip from a member of the Big Mike militia about the fact that Ron DeSantis is in Idaho. What's he doing there? According to the Idaho Statesman and a joint news conference on Monday, they said him and Brad Little, the governor of Idaho, said they know how to solve the problem of the U.S. debt. They advocated for amending the U.S. Constitution to require balanced federal budgets. Many states, including Florida and Idaho, have this requirement in their own constitutions. The governor's proposal involves a process which has never been used before, in which at least 34 states could demand that Congress hold a convention to make amendments. DeSantis said, quote, "It's not something that I would do lightly, asking for an amendment to keep the Constitution, but we can keep doing the same things up there and all of a sudden just hoping that we're going to get different results. I think we know that this is hardwired to go in a certain direction, and at some point we, the people, have it within our power to choose a different course." The legislative session, Idaho lawmakers rejected a proposal for Idaho to call for such a convention. But on Monday, Little expressed his support for the idea, framing such a move as help to President Donald Trump's efforts to slash the federal budget through a so-called Department of Government Efficiency led by Elon Musk. Here's a thing I want to put in your minds for a second. Did you ever see the movie Man of the Year with Robin Williams? The problem with Man of the Year was it couldn't decide what it was. I'm going somewhere with this, trust me. Man of the Year was a story about a comedian who hosts a show like The Daily Show, that's Robin Williams, and he decides to run for president, and he ends up winning. Now, the problem with Man of the Year was it couldn't decide if it was a comedy, a thriller, a political thriller, a drug use movie. It couldn't decide what it was, which is what it really suffered from. It was a messed up thing. If you just watch the Robin Williams clips, you're fine. It's not that great, and it suffered because of it. Has to do with voter fraud. Wait, was this a documentary? Voting machines spitting out the wrong answer? Is this a documentary? But there's a great scene in it when he shows up to the Capitol to a joint session of Congress to address them, dressed like George Washington, to say, what would our founders have wanted? They may look at us like we're pretty silly. We look at them like they're pretty silly. I ask you right now, the country we have, the way our democracy is functioning right now, everything that's going on, is this what they envisioned? Did they envision states with massive, massive, massive deficits? Now, we can go down that route and talk about our original Secretary of Treasury and we could talk about Hamilton. We could talk about a lot of people who are responsible for the debt. We could have a lot of conversations about Madison and we can discuss that. But at the same time, would they even recognize the country we have right now, especially with the entitlement programs that are blowing out the budget? One thing government seems to think is they can always print more money. They also think to themselves, we can always get other people's money. Now, this is a problem for Democrats and Republicans, right? Because Republicans say we want to spend on our spending priorities. Something I was very impressed with the other day was Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth comes out to announce the F-47 with Donald Trump. And I'm thinking to myself, didn't you guys just talk about cuts to the military, cuts to the Defense Department, cuts to the Pentagon? Well, he also rolled out $580 million worth of cuts that or was it billion? $580 billion worth of cuts to the Pentagon, which is all the waste, fraud, and abuse. The left is losing its mind because we're trying to cut the waste, fraud, and abuse. Doge Washington volunteers have found tons of money going from the Washington state legislature into the very groups that are advocating for special interest for the Democrats. That's not what our founders had in mind. Do you know why Washington, D.C. is not a state? One of the many reasons Washington, D.C. is not a state. They didn't want a whole political class state in Washington. Why they didn't do term limits for everybody? They didn't envision people living this long. Let's just do that for a second here. But the fact that somebody like Bernie Sanders can be in office for decades on a government salary and be worth millions of dollars. That's not what they were looking at. Not at all. And now the Democrats, fully embracing Bernie Sanders, fully embracing that aspect of the party, fully embracing it, is messed up. Bernie Sanders and AOC were on a little publicity tour this weekend, going around saying, hey, look at us. We could be your nominees in 2028. They were running all over the place. AOC in her mom jeans, Bernie Sanders looking like Bernie Sanders. That was what was happening all weekend long. And I thought to myself, my God, some people are actually going to fall for this insanity. There's two reasons why. One, they're going to go the far left of their party and embrace that more. That's number one. But number two is that a lot of people are going to say, well, they're the Democrats this time. We'll just vote for them. I think this is a losing model. I think they will lose. After all, how did it work out the last time you ran an old man and somebody dumb with him for president? Oh, wait a minute. We did that already, didn't we? How'd that work out, everybody? I meant Tim Walz and Kamala Harris. I don't know what you guys meant. We did that back-to-back times? Okay. And once again, I'll ask you, because we're taking a poll today, who would you support in 2028? Bernie Sanders and AOC or J.D. Vance and anybody on the Republican side of the aisle? Anybody. Here, I'll give you the most extreme case for a minute. J.D. Vance and Tulsi Gabbard. Or here, let's make this more fun. J.D. Vance and Nikki Haley. Okay, here we go. Who would you support? I know a lot of you out there don't like Nikki Haley. J.D. Vance and Nikki Haley versus Bernie Sanders and AOC. You know how you'd vote. I know how you'd vote. We know how this is going to end, but you can text your answer to 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. So Bernie is on this whole PR tour, right? And Bernie, I'll never forget this. This was a shtick on Saturday Night Live. Do you remember this? It was Larry David was hosting, and he plays Bernie Sanders. And there was a shtick about socialism, and Bernie goes, nah, democratic socialism. There's no difference. Socialism is socialism. Now, him and AOC are spewing flat-out Marxism, but at the same time, they're trying to moderate their message. Now they're talking about securing the border. During a sit-down with ABC, they asked him if there's anything he agrees with Trump on.
Is there anything that you think Trump has done right?
Yeah. I mean, I think cracking down on fentanyl, making sure our borders are stronger. Look, nobody thinks illegal immigration is appropriate.
Well, your entire party thinks illegal immigration is appropriate, and all these federal judges that Chuck Schumer had appointed all think illegal immigration is appointed. Don't believe me? Oh, yeah. Chuck Schumer over the weekend was bragging about appointing those judges.
There are those who believe that we are in real time living through an assault on the constitutional order. Do you believe that we are in a constitutional crisis right now?
Yes, our democracy is at risk because Donald Trump shows that he wishes to violate the laws in many, many different ways. The good news here is we did put 235 judges, progressive judges, judges not under the control of Trump last year on the bench, and they are ruling against Trump time after time after time. And we hope that the appellate courts, when it gets up there in the Supreme Court, will uphold those rulings. They restored the money to NIH. They required that 8,000 federal employees have to come back. We're in over 100 lawsuits against them, and we are having a good deal of success. It's only at the lower court level right now.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Doge Washington volunteers have found out that all these judges that are ruling against Donald Trump not just are those judges you're talking about, but on top of that, they're all donors to the Democratic Party. Do you think this is what the founders had in mind? Do you think they had in mind some judge in Washington state overturning a vote of the people who said, we don't want to ban natural gas? And some judge who's a Democrat donor comes along and says, I don't care what you think. We are going to ban natural gas. You're going to get it good and hard because we know better than you, the people, even though you voted not to ban natural gas in Washington state. You think that's what the founders had in mind? Why is Bernie Sanders all of a sudden starting to moderate his message? Some people might argue that it's because under socialism, you actually want to take care of the people you have. You may run out of money soon enough. Okay, we got to secure the border. Drugs aren't good. Fine. That's not why he's moderating his message. He's got to moderate his message because socialism sucks as messaging. Didn't we find that out in the last election? You're going to hear people like Bernie Sanders become the biggest moderates you ever heard in your lives. Well, let me ask you a question, Bernie. Where were you for the last 4 years? Did you ever see a border security bill with Bernie Sanders' name on it? Hey, better question. Have you ever seen Bernie Sanders' name on any bill whatsoever? This guy has accomplished nothing and become a millionaire. Also, I'm old enough to remember when Bernie Sanders said this about the border.
Healthcare is a human right for all, including, by the way, the undocumented in this country.
Okay, so really, you were literally for illegal immigration 5 minutes ago. Literally 5 minutes ago. But now today, you want to be president, you're moderating. Doesn't that sound like Bob Ferguson to a lot of you? Yes. Now, this interview with Bernie Sanders did not end well for Bernie Sanders. He's talking to the ABC anchor, and he's talking about how great AOC is, how wonderful AOC is, and then all of a sudden, this happens.
She inspires young people all over the country.
Would you like to see her join in the Senate?
Right now, we have, as I said, just a whole lot of people in the Congress. Okay, Jonathan, thanks.
Wait, I got one more. This is important.
Well, I asked you.
Okay.
You want to do nonsense, do nonsense.
No.
I don't want to talk about inside the Beltway stuff. I got 32,000 people.
I was just asking you about AOC because she was out there with you.
Fine, but I don't want to talk about this.
Okay, you've literally been talking about AOC. You literally were talking about AOC. You spent the whole weekend campaigning with AOC, even though there's no election right now, but you don't want to talk about AOC. Can somebody explain that one to me for a minute? If the Democrat Party is going to continue to embrace its far-left ideology, hey, I'm here for it. You know why? It's going to deliver us more and more victories.
He also, though, Bernie said the quiet part out loud when he says something like, well, if you want to talk nonsense, we'll talk nonsense, which to me means the idea of AOC being in the Senate is, checks notes, nonsense.
Yes. In fact, I'll do you one better. Chuck Schumer's under fire right now. They're all mad at him for caving. So what's everybody discussing? How do we get rid of Chuck Schumer? Well, who could beat him in New York? Who's got star power in New York that people might actually vote for? Now, it's very different winning a statewide election versus winning one small congressional district in the Bronx. And I don't see AOC actually winning a statewide election in New York. New York may be crazy. They ain't that crazy. So, nonsense? Does that mean Bernie Sanders think the whole idea of her actually replacing him is nonsense? Or here's something else. Does he think the idea of Chuck Schumer going anywhere is nonsense? He'll survive this. He's like a cockroach. He survived everything. He'll survive this also. That's the question, right? What's Chuck Schumer up to, by the way? So, he's absolutely losing it in his own district. He's very, very vulnerable right now. They're talking about targeting him with a primary challenger in his own party. Republicans are gearing up, and New York has moved more to the right. So Chuck Schumer is now talking about what to do about illegal immigrants.
Do you agree, is the United States in a constitutional crisis?
Yes, I do, Kristen, and democracy is at risk. Look, Donald Trump is a lawless, angry man. He thinks he should be king. He thinks he should do whatever he wants, regardless of the law. And he thinks judges should just listen to him. Now, we have to fight that back in every single way.
Funny you should mention that, Chucky. Didn't we just have that in Washington State for a minute here? Here's I-2066, the ruling by the judge here in Washington. Just a King County Superior Court judge who says, you know what, the vote of the people, that doesn't matter at all. You're too stupid to understand what you voted for.
So, to summarize, Initiative 2066 violates both Article 2, Section 19 and Article 2, Section 37. Initiative 2066 violates the single subject requirement of Article 2, Section 19 of the Washington Constitution. Initiative 2066 violates the subject and title requirement of Article 2, Section 19 of the Washington Constitution. Article 2066 violates the section amended shall be set forth at full length requirement of Article 2, Section 37. For these reasons, Initiative 2066 is unconstitutional. Plaintiff's motion for summary judgment is granted. Defendants is denied.
The fix was in. The fix was in. It didn't matter how many signatures you collected. It didn't matter how many votes you got. The fix was in because they knew the judges would shoot this thing down if any of the initiatives got past them. What are they doing in the legislature right now? They are gutting the parental rights initiative because they can. So what are they doing with the judiciary? If this thing gets to another level, which it will, it'll probably go to the Washington State Supreme Court, then they're going to shoot this thing down. And in the process, what you're doing is you're disenfranchising voters, which is what the Democrats want, and making people think their vote does not matter. This judge, by the way, Washington Doge volunteers pulled up her donations. Jenny Durkin, Jay Inslee, Lorena Gonzalez, all the Democrats around here who you know she donated to their campaigns. In fact, Jay Inslee was in the courtroom. Jay Inslee thinks you were too stupid to understand what was on that initiative. By the way, won't call out Bob Ferguson for monkeying with the language on the other initiatives to make them so confusing you didn't know what they were. But Jay Inslee says, my view is the initiative threw a curveball to voters because it included so many things that were extraneous to the original proposal. So it's not fair to the voters. And that's why we have these rules, so that the initiative process has integrity. The Democrats literally just tried to get rid of the initiative process. They literally tried to get rid of it in this session. They were trying to get rid of it. I wonder if you feel that your vote matters anymore in Washington State after this little stunt. They got rid of the $30 car tabs. They're going after this now. The Democrats in Olympia are going after the other initiatives. Right now, this is disenfranchising voters, exactly like the Democrats want. On Friday, we had Brandy Cruz on the show, and we were talking about the parental rights initiatives that we're going to have to do this all over again. And I said we need a mandate. It's not enough to get 400,000 signatures. It's not enough to get 500,000 signatures. We need over 1 million. We need over 1 million. But then something else. Everybody spent the entire last election here in Washington at each other's throats on the Republican side of the aisle. Nobody was working to do ballot harvesting except for a few people here and there, including our friends out in Yakima. Almost nobody was doing that. Everybody was fighting for their candidate and then got mad when their candidate didn't get through or whatever the case was. People said, I posted on social media. That's enough. You think Scott Pressler, you think Charlie Kirk won Arizona and won Pennsylvania by just going, I'll post online. Scott Pressler was literally walking out to cars that were being blocked by Hamasniks and registering them to vote. Literally registering people to vote while in the middle of traffic jams. He heard that Hamasniks had shut down a freeway. He gets in his car, he runs out there, gets out, climbs onto and starts registering voters. That's what you need to win here in Washington. But something else. How many people have no idea there was even a natural gas ban being considered? How many people said to me point blank, Ari, why is money coming out of my paycheck? What's this long-term care tax? What is that? And I said, well, okay, thanks for telling me you don't listen to my show, but let's go back in time a little bit and talk about how I told you how to opt out of this stupid thing, and then you could vote against it. Wait, what? We could vote against it? And look, the voter turnout numbers bear that out. This is insane, my friends. It's designed to disenfranchise you and get their way. And in the process, the ones who talk about affordability all the time, all they're doing is making Washington State more expensive. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from our friend Quentin in Kent. Quentin, don't see Snow White, okay, man?
Thank you. I had no intention. There's really only one good reason to watch Snow White, and that's Gal Gadot. That's the only reason.
I will say, as great as Gal Gadot is, this ain't her movie, my friend. Wait till Fast and Furious 11, okay?
I'd rather see her come back in that character. I'd love to see her. They brought back so many of them. They're already dead. They ought to bring her back, too.
Exactly. What's up, man?
I think having suffered all of this bad news, which sadly is not surprising, Ari, I think it's time for Washingtonians, at least those within earshot of my voice, we need to think about going into a full-blown, purposeful, organized tax revolt, not pay them another penny of our money, even if it involves creating an underground market. Just do it. Because that's where they get their power from. They get power from ignorance and money, and they need both of those to work.
So are you thinking like a Galt's Gulch type idea? Is that what you're thinking?
I'm thinking, I'm thinking of just stop paying anything. We create our own dark economy. We keep our own money. We do our thing. It's almost mafiaistic, if that's a word.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. In fact, that's the way it feels to me right now. It feels to me like they have total control over the state. They're not going to relinquish it in any way, shape, or form. And with the Democrats' massive tax proposals, instead of cutting anything, they're not even going to go through with Bob Ferguson's cuts, possibly. He proposed all these cuts, which I didn't think was enough, but at least it's a step in the right direction. Now, he gets to say they're the bad guys, and he gets to say, look, I tried. I tried my very best. Don't you see that as the game plan, Quentin?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's got White House ambitions. That's why he's trying to be all, wishy-washy and moderate. But, I mean, he's not fooling me. He's not fooling you. He's probably fooling our fellow less than informed fellow Washingtonians. That's who he's fooling.
Well, we'll see if he actually fools them, because they elected Jay Inslee to be governor of our state. They did not elect him to be president. In fact, the more people found out about him, the less they liked him. They didn't even want him to be president here in Washington.
Oh, that's right. That's right. He was 0-0. Yeah, 0.0.
0.0. Exactly. Quentin, my man, thanks for the call. Thanks for being part of the show. Appreciate having you as always. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, local activists are being supported by the Seattle Times in their quest to light Teslas on fire or cause disruption? What's this all about? We'll explain it when we come back. But first, Todd Herman's Daily Thoughtcast, right now on The Ari Hoffman Show. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card, plus so much more. Yet another reason, always keep your radio tuned to 570 KVI. Left on your dial, always right on the issues. You can also stream us at KVI.com, download the KVI app, and, of course, subscribe on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from Adam in Sumner. Adam, what's going on?
Hey, Ari. So, I've been a PCO in the 31st District, and I've been in contact with the local Republican Party and talked on some of the committees, and I am not hopeful. I'm not inspired. And the Republican Party does see that with a lot of the followers and the constituents out there. But ultimately, what I'm calling to ask is, if nothing works, then what do we do?
That's a great question. That's a really, really great question. But in my opinion, and you may disagree with me on this, in my opinion, I don't think we've actually put in a real effort in a very, 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 very long time. So let me ask you this for a second. You go to the party meetings once a month or however often they are, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What's the age of the youngest person there?
Oh, man. Probably about my age on the average.
Okay. So occasionally you get somebody young. But can we admit that we are the party of old people in Washington State?
Yeah, we can admit that. Just to paint a bit of a picture, though, they do hold dinners where they invite aspiring young Republicans, and you do get some kids that are in college that want to go into politics, and they do come forward. So we get a handful here and there of some young blood.
Sure, but here's the thing. Here's why I'm bringing up this specific point, right? And I'm not picking on you. Every district has this problem because I've spoken at a bunch of them, okay? And every single district, I have given this message to them before. We got to put the party, back in Republican Party. It's not there right now. And the young people don't want to come and don't want to be involved. One of the reasons Donald Trump won this last election is because the kids actually came out for Trump. The teenagers, the college kids came out for Trump. Not all of them, not the majority of them, but enough to move the needle. Here's an example that I'll use, and I don't know if you've heard me talk about this on the show before. There's my son's Jewish high school in Mercer Island. They voted overwhelmingly for Trump in their school election. Why? Because it's cool. It's fun to be a Republican. But for some reason, it's not fun or cool to be a Washington Republican. We haven't solved that yet, and my son's not political. His friends, most of them are not political. They see this stuff on social media. They make fun of all of it. But here's the thing. They all thought it was cool to support Trump. Right now, Trump in Washington State, it's not cool to support Trump. That's not a winning message for you. But on top of that, it's not cool to be a Republican. We've been so demonized by them. We have a marketing problem on top of everything else, and nobody's talking about that at all. So on top of the issue where not enough people are going around ballot harvesting, we have a marketing problem also. And if we don't solve those, we're never going to win an election ever again.
So as you mentioned that's actually something that's been discussed is marketing and having another look at that. They're going back through a bunch of data to see what works and what doesn't work. One of the things I think is we don't have a lot of exposure. I mean, if you think about it, once in a while we get together at Olympia, but you see Democrats everywhere. I mean, right now they're starting to wean their way in front of Costco up in Bonnie Lake. Every Sunday you'll find them out there along Highway 410 now. And, I actually went out to my party. I said, we need more visibility. We need like a counter protest or something going on. Can we get any volunteers? And I haven't even received a response to that one yet.
Yeah, and I hear this from multiple parties, but here's another perfect example for you. Bonnie Lake. That's where Timothy Pauly is going to be released to. The mass murderer who Jay Inslee signed an order for him to be released on his way out the door in office. And I didn't see any rallies this weekend, and even though the mayor of Bonnie Lake said we need to do something about this, and I don't know if he's a Democrat or Republican, I don't think I've even ever had him on the show. But that's a perfect example where we go, we don't want a murderer in our town. Hey, Bob Ferguson, can we do something about this?
Well, that's funny because I've actually got the Bonnie Lake PD and the city council on my Facebook page. You see updates from them periodically. They said nothing about this.
Of course not. Why would they? Because, let me guess, are a bunch of them Democrats?
I lost count.
So, do you think they want the criminal behind bars, or do they think they want the criminal on the streets?
Well, if they were listening to the people, they'd want the criminals behind bars.
Right, but they don't listen to the people. So what do you think's happening right now?
Right.
So you should use this to create an electoral problem for them. Let's say Bob Ferguson does the right thing and keeps Timothy Pauly behind bars. It's still a win for you. You know why? Hey, city council, you didn't say a damn word when they were talking about releasing a mass murderer. That's your argument right there. Right there. That's how you do it.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you this, Adam, before I let you go. You guys ever want me to come out there and speak and give my pitch to the party, I'm always happy to do it. You can email me at ari@kvi.com, all right?
Yeah, well, I can get a hold of some people. I'm sure they'd love it.
Good deal. ari@kvi.com, all right, Adam?
Yeah, you got it.
Fantastic. Thanks for the call, buddy. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, more of your calls, more of your texts, plus the violence against Teslas is spiraling out of control. Can anything be done to stop it? You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Reminder, if you want to see how well my facial hair is growing back in after dressing up as Donald Trump for Jewish Halloween, check out our live stream on Facebook, X, YouTube, and, of course, over on Rumble. Yet another way to enjoy the Ari Hoffman Show every single day. You guys said some strange things when I asked who you want to see run against Sanders and AOC with J.D. Vance. I got this one here. This one from the 206. It says, J.D. Vance and RFK Jr., Nikki Haley would be a long-distance second pick. Okay, fun. I got this one from Pat. It says, Vance and Lara Trump. From the 505, they want Vance or Ari Hoffman. Yes, I am now running for president. Or am I running for vice president? I'm not really sure about that one, but they want me and J.D. Vance. That's cool. I like J.D. Vance. So, Steve in Shoreline says, I would nominate J.D. Vance and Pam Bondi or Kristi Noem. Those ladies have chutzpah. Yes, very good. Lance adds here, he says, you had me at J.D. Vance and Tulsi Gabbard. You made it difficult when you said Nikki Haley, but hands down, they're still beating Bernie Sanders and the whack job. Well, I guess 2 whack jobs. That's very good. All right, Steve and Kent, this is what I understand. You want Vance and Sanders? Then when the VP dies of old age, Vance can pick up a new one without having to consider the Romneys of the party? All right, Steve, you don't play with fire there, my friend. No. And do you want anybody to die? No. Let's not do that. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Doug in Spanaway. Doug, what's up?
Oh, I was just going to say, I disagree with got a marketing problem in this state. I think the problem is, for one, this state is corrupt as hell, and then it's also we're outnumbered. You got a lot of stupid people in this state, and I mean that's just what it is.
I'm not disagreeing with you, Doug, but how many people don't even try anymore?
Well, the thing is when the corrupt people are running the show, and then you got all these deadbeats that either work for the government or on the dole, and the state of Washington and Oregon and all these blue states, that's their mantra, man. You got a lot of people that are just dead weight that are living in these states. Then you got, on top of that, you got the college-educated idiots, that they're stupid. 90% of these people don't know what the hell they're voting for. They're just out for some stupid cause, and that's the problem with this state and several other ones. And it's
I'm not saying it's not a problem. I don't think it's the problem. I think we have a lot of problems. Otherwise, we wouldn't be losing this bad.
No way.
Yeah, I think there's a whole bunch of problems we got here, Doug. You are 100% correct. That's one of them. I think there's a whole lot more, but I do appreciate the call. Do appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Beth in Seattle. Beth, what's going on?
Hey, Ari. I was at the hearing today for 5181 and 5179.
To gut the Parents' Bill of Rights, that one?
Exactly, and also to penalize school districts that don't go along with the legislature's and OSPI's mandates on sex ed curriculum and gender identity and everything else.
Yeah. How'd it go?
There was a lot of supporters. There was a lot of good people testifying against these two bills, which was good. And they actually gave some time for both bills to have hearings. We know that they're going to pass them anyway, regardless of all our reasoning against it. But, 5179 is a real bullying bill against school districts that go against the state line. And I made the point that, it will cause school districts to, between federal law and state law, they'll be going against one of them. And also it will cause, since it's an 80-20 issue, it's going to cause school districts to lose even more students if they force them to go along with state mandates. And frankly, 2081 is currently the state law. So when they're bullying students or bullying districts right now, they shouldn't be, because there's some districts that are trying to follow 2081, and OSPI is bullying them on that.
Yeah, this doesn't surprise me at all. Oh, don't take away our funding, but we'll take away your funding if you disagree with us, right? Isn't that exactly what Rakedal's office is doing?
Yeah, and one more thing is this 5179. It talks about harassment, intimidation, and bullying, and that if school districts aren't going along with those policies, they can be punished by the state and take away up to 20%.
Isn't that harassment and bullying?
Well, I made the point at the end of my testimony that Jewish students and families are suing a school district for harassment and bullying that was not addressed by school administrators, and it has not been addressed by the legislatures.
Yeah.
I don't think Chair Santos was very happy with me.
You mean the second largest district in the state is actually getting sued right now? Yes, it is. It is very entertaining. Beth, appreciate you being such an awesome advocate, looking out for all of us. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Switching gears for a minute over to Issaquah. Saw this post from Issaquah Police. For immediate release, Issaquah Police Department requests information regarding incident involving a Tesla. So, apparently, yesterday, the Issaquah Police Department has become aware of an incident involving a Tesla that took place over the weekend at Issaquah Commons. The department learned of the incident through reports circulating on social media. At this time, neither party involved in the incident has formally reported to the Issaquah Police. Without a victim coming forward, the department is unable to launch a full investigation or pursue any enforcement action. Now, if you were at Issaquah Commons and you know anything about this vandalizing of a Tesla, please give the Issaquah Police a call at 425-837-3200. That's 425-837-3200. I do love this insanity just a little bit, just because most of the people who drive Teslas are liberals. So you have the lefties destroying the electric cars because they don't like Elon Musk, even though the electric cars are part of their agenda. And they're going after the Teslas, which means they're going after people who agree with them politically. As we say all the time, a conservative is a liberal whose Tesla hasn't been lit on fire yet. Seriously, this stuff has not stopped yet. Austin police on Monday morning discovered incendiary devices at a local Tesla dealership. This comes as Tesla dealerships, charging stations, and vehicles sold by the Elon Musk-owned company have been violently attacked in recent weeks with some cases of arson. According to the Post-Millennial, the Austin Police Department's Public Information Office said that around 8:04 a.m. local time, police responded to a found/abandoned hazard call at the Tesla dealership. What happened? These are basically IEDs. Suspicious devices were located when police arrived, which prompted authorities to contact Austin's police bomb squad to investigate. By the way, I hear that the Babylon Bee reported that the way they're getting people to go see the new Snow White movie is they're promising liberals there'll be a Tesla lit on fire by Seven White and the Dwarfs. Yeah, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Man, blew the punchline at the end there. Boo. Anywho, yeah, this is absolute insanity. Hey, by the way, where's all the people who speak out against political violence when it's January 6th or something? Haven't heard any of the people in D.C. doing that. In fact, I hear Chuck Schumer and crew encouraging this nonsense. Oh, give me a break. Only good news to wrap up the show. Your good news giveaway, your good news headlines, your chance to win a $50 Daniels Broiler gift card, plus so much more. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. It is time to feel good as we wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And before we get to our good news giveaway, got some good news headlines for you. Now, both of these stories I have today involve true crime that ended well. So I like these for good news today. According to Como News, a man who helped steal a golden toilet worth more than $6 million from an English palace nearly 6 years ago learned his fate on Tuesday. I have many questions about the logistics of this. Michael Jones was convicted of burglary in Oxford Crown Court. The theft was planned by James Sheen, who previously pleaded guilty to burglary, conspiracy, and transferring criminal property. The toilet, a sculpture titled America, I don't like you guys very much at all, was stolen. This is why we had a revolution, because they made golden toilets and named them America. Was stolen from the Blenheim Palace in England in the early mornings of September 14, 2019. Oh, I get it. It was a compliment. Right, Mike? Because we're so wealthy here in America, we even have golden toilets. I see. Surveillance footage showed the suspects in action as they crashed through the palace gates in stolen vehicles. You sure this wasn't in Seattle? That's what it sounds like. In the video, a car is seen speeding towards the palace. The suspect appears to be holding tools they apparently used to break into the palace, and later seen carrying parts of the toilet. At one point, the car pulls up at the palace steps, later speeds away from the scene. The thieves allegedly drove across an empty field in the cars before smashing through a window, entering the bathroom, ripping the toilet from its plumbing. The broken pipes caused extensive water damage to the palace, which was full of antique and historically significant art and furniture for visitors to see. The sculpture, which had previously been on display in New York City's Guggenheim Museum, weighed 215 pounds, was made of $3.5 million worth of gold, and was insured at $6 million. Jones was one of the three men arrested in connection to the heights, allegedly cased the palace 2 times before the toilet was stolen, once before it was installed, as well as once after the exhibit opened. He took photos of the window that was used to enter the palace during the heist, took photos of the door lock to the bathroom where the toilet was kept. According to a reporter, Sheen oversaw the sale of the toilet, which prosecutors believe was chopped up and sold as individual pieces of gold. Sheen pled guilty to burglary, conspiracy, and transferring criminal property. The men who Sheen messaged to complete the sale, Fred Doe and Bora Guck, were on trial with Jones, and both were charged with 1 count of conspiracy to transfer criminal property, but both pleaded not guilty. So, no more golden throne, I guess. They chopped it up and sold it for parts. But at least the people who did it are behind bars. And I assume somehow they'll get another golden toilet because that thing was insured up to $6 million. I think they'll be okay. Everybody except the insurance company. Meanwhile, in another theft story, this one's right here in Washington. According to Como News, a 32-year-old man has been arrested and charged following a brazen burglary at Sasquatch Bricks toy store, where over $10,000 worth of Legos were stolen. So he just stole the Lego Death Star? Oh, God, that's how much that sucker costs these days. The incident happened on February 13th around 5 a.m. when Pierce County Sheriff's Office deputies were sent to the toy store for a reported burglary. According to the caller, a man drove a U-Haul to the front of the store, broke it, and made off with the valuable Lego sets. By the time deputies arrived, the suspect had fled, leaving the store in disarray. Investigators worked the case for a month, gathering tips and reviewing surveillance footage. Their effort led to the establishment of probable cause for a warrant on a storage unit located just a mile away from the toy store. When deputies arrived to serve the warrant, they found the suspect passed out in his vehicle, parked outside the storage unit. The man, who the PCSO said has an extensive history of property crimes and weapons violations, was arrested. Inside the storage unit, deputies discovered the stolen Legos hidden in the rafters. Additionally, they found guns, drugs, scales, and small baggies. So what you're saying is that Legos are as addictive as drugs? The man was charged on multiple crimes: possession of stolen property, unlawful possession of a gun, possession of a stolen gun, unlawful possession of drugs with intent to distribute, and obstructing law enforcement. Where's the theft of Legos in there? I hear everything else except for the theft of the Legos. You stole the Legos. Yes, Legos do appreciate more than gold, or golden toilets, as it may be. Before I forget, your chance to win fantabulous prizes. Today, we are giving away a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card. Daniel's Broiler has been a Seattle favorite since 1980, features USDA prime steak and other specialties, including chicken and fresh seafood, as well as a selection of high-end spirits, wine, and cocktails. Daniel's Broiler is open now in Bellevue, downtown Seattle, Leschi, and South Lake Union with dine-in, takeout, and delivery. Check out danielsbroiler.com to reserve a table, place your takeout delivery order, and more. We're also giving away a copy of 7 Steps to a Successful Retirement by Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs, plus the Little Red Book of Retirement. Learn how to design your retirement to support your quality of life. For 30-plus years from Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs, a local company working to help you grow deep financial roots so that future financial storms, they'll blow your life savings away. Visit madronafinancial.com for more information and discover how you can create a rooted wealth plan today. Last but certainly not least, we are giving away two tickets to Riley Green at the Washington State Fair on Saturday, August 30th. Riley Green is coming to the fair this fall. Get your tickets now at thefair.com. That's thefair.com. All you have to do in order to win these fantabulous prizes is be caller number 10 at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Caller number 10 will win a $50 Daniels Broiler gift card, a copy of 7 Steps to Successful Retirement by Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs, plus a bonus of the Little Red Book of Retirement, and two tickets to Riley Green at the Washington State Fair on Saturday, August 30th. Get your tickets now at thefair.com. Phone lines are open now. Give Mike a call for your chance to win at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. And with the sun setting, and we can actually see the sun now for the first time in a while, I'm actually kind of looking forward to spring. I got to say, one of my favorite things about spring is coming home late after the show on a Friday, having a drink with my wife, a cocktail out on our deck overlooking Lake Washington. One of my absolute favorite things to do, and I'm excited we get to do that again. Now, if only the weather would cooperate. I'm not seeing a lot of sunshine in our horizon for the short term. I'm going to have our friend Shannon O'Donnell back on the show to find out when we're actually going to get the sunshine, because I'm a little tired of this winter. Yeah, there wasn't much snow, but you know what? The rain was a little insane. Well, my friends, I will say, though, that's going to wrap it up for us today. But fear not, my friends, because we will be back tomorrow with more insane stories, more exciting guests, and, of course, more giveaways. You've been listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.